This is Undaunted.Life, a man's podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Thompson. Let's get into it. All right, guys, we've got a special guest on the podcast today. His name is Dustin Diefenderfer. Yes, that's actually his last name. It's an awesome last name. It actually has a really cool meaning. I'm going to go to text message, actually. I'm doing this live because he texted me the other day because I guess he looked up the meaning of his name. Okay, the surname Diefenderfer originated in Germany and means one who defends or protects. All right, so guys, let's go out there and be some Diefenderfers. But this guy is the founder of the Mountain Tough fitness app and really the entire Mountain Tough ecosystem that we talk about. But I actually recorded this in their studio in Montana, okay? So at the Mountain Tough facility. So if you're watching this on YouTube, that's why it looks a little bit different than my studio here in Edmond, Oklahoma. But they wanted me to come out there because they've started doing something with their show where they're actually inviting guests to come out there and kind of do the Mountain Tough thing for a couple of days. And so they usually try to, and I don't want to ruin anything because, you know, this will come out before their episode with me, but they want to try to get you to do something that maybe you're not great at, but then they also want to try to crush you with a workout and then, you know, doing the podcast and basically just kind of living in their world for a little bit. And then when we get into the actual podcast itself, I don't know if my editor is going to edit it out, but there was a wide shot and there's like literally like a turtle box right there. So if you're not familiar, that's like this wireless Bluetooth, like waterproof speaker or whatever that he had just given me. And I was so excited. Apparently I wanted to leave it right there next to me. So you might see that in the shot if that's not edited out. But, you know, when we get in there, we talk about, you know, the training that we've done. We talked about, you know, I'm trying to remember because we recorded my podcast for his show, and then I recorded this podcast for our show and kind of what that would look like. So some of this is going to be crossing over, but ultimately we talked about, okay, where did Mountain Tough, where did the idea come from? How did his upbringing growing up in the outdoors and doing a lot of outdoorsy stuff lead him to this? Because the guy spent a lot of time doing ministry work in Africa, and he thought, you know, even whenever they were expanding their family and adding children, that they would continue doing that, but then it became apparent that he needed to come home. But then also, you know, we talked about, again, trying to remember if it was my conversation on his show or the conversation on our show, but you know, he kind of had that good corporate job, but he felt like God was calling him to something else. And then we do talk about the development of the Mountain Tough app because it started out with him training 3 guys in a park behind his house, right? And now it's for my money, it is the best fitness app that I have ever seen. And I've used some different fitness apps and I've suggested several for other people, but Mountain Tough is just different because it takes you where you are. Because originally it was like, okay, we want to get people ready for mountain sheep hunts or elk hunts or bear hunts or something like that. And then it just kind of expanded to like, okay, well, what if you're getting off the couch for the first time in a few years? You know, is there a program that helps that person? And so Mountain Tough has programs for that. Okay, what if you're a little bit too stiff? They've got stretching and prehab and rehab programs. They've also got stuff if you're off season, you're wanting to get strong for off season. Oh, and they got stuff like, hey, if you do got a mountain hunt coming up or some sort of a race, like a Tough Mudder or something like that, they've got programs that kind of meet you where you're at. And also it's like, okay, where do you work out? Do you work out at a Globo gym where you have every machine and every free weight thing available to you? Okay, there's programs for that. Or do you just work out at home and you have nothing, right? You just have your body weight. Or if you just maybe just have like a step up box or even a cooler and maybe you've got a Go Ruck or something like that. They just got stuff for everybody. And I did just want to remind you guys that just for a limited time, because of my relationship with Dustin and the Mountain Tough team, they are extending an offer to Undaunted Lifers, right? Where you can go to the Mountain Tough website. So it's just MTNTOUGH, Mountain Tough. So MTNTOUGH.com. And when you sign up for your monthly plan, just put in the promo code Kyle. And essentially what that does is it takes your 14-day free trial and turns it into a 6-week free trial. And so guys, I know I've talked about this on some ads and I've announced it before. This is a game changer. So if you've ever gotten to the gym or wherever you work out, even your home gym, and you're like, I don't really know what to do, let them program for you. I've had people be like, Kyle, I'm ready to cultivate physical resilience. How do I do it? And what they mean is like, hey, can I come work out with you? Or can I do your program? Or can you write a program for me? And I always felt like I needed to do that. Not anymore, right? I've got the guys with Mountain Tough. This is what they do all day, every day. So guys, if you want 6 weeks of a trial to Mountain Tough, which just sign up using that code. That'll make them think I'm cooler, right? You know, 2 thumbs up. If you're an Undaunted Lifer, just go to the website, do me a favor and sign up, but actually download the app. You can put it on your phone. You can put it on your iPad. You can put it on your smart television or something like that. Try these workouts, guys, because I went through one of their experimental workouts because I worked out with their noon crew, and their noon crew is what they're doing for experimental stuff. Like, hey, we want to see if this programming works. And they tried to crush me, and like, it was just a really, really solid workout for wherever you're at. But man, Dustin Dustin is just an aces dude. He's unapologetically Christian, and he weaves that into what he does with his programming, but also with his company overall. Everyone I met out there was just absolutely fantastic. They're all kind of on the same wavelength, and so I'm just thrilled that we were able to bring you a conversation between me and Dustin. So I'm not going to keep him from you any longer. So without further ado, let's get into it. Dustin, how's it feel to have someone else in the captain's chair?
It feels weird.
It should feel weird.
I've never sat on this side.
I've taken over your studio. How do you feel about that?
2 days in Utah. We're in Utah, right?
You know what? Okay, so for those of you that don't know, because it's probably not going to make the YouTube video, so I had just gotten in Dustin's truck. Like, we're getting ready to go, like, do a couple of days with MTNTOUGH. And for whatever reason, my mind went to the last time when I was at Fieldcraft in Utah, and I'm like, oh, I can see mountains from my hotel. And I just go, man, it's great being in Utah. And you literally smack me, go, we're in Montana. I was like, oh my gosh, what a great first impression. So yeah, that probably didn't make the actual final edit of your video, because for those of you that aren't paying attention to this, because we're not doing a normal intro outro, you flew me out here to MTNTOUGH to do some stuff with you guys, because y'all do kind of your own version of this kind of YouTube show where, you know, you get guys doing some stuff that maybe they're not great at or stuff they haven't done before. And then, you know, workout and cold plunge and then podcasts and all that. And so we're flipping sides of the table because I wanted to have you on my show. And it's like, okay, we could do it digitally later, or we can do it like right now. So we're going to squeeze one in before I got to get to the airport. But like, and I want to get back to all the stuff that you've done with MTNTOUGH and building out the app. But like, when you bring somebody into town, right, especially someone that's never been to Montana or Utah for that matter, like, and you're trying to figure out like what to do with them, like, how do y'all like figure out exactly like, okay, how are we going to make this person uncomfortable, and how do you gauge? Because some people come in and they're not like in world-class shape, right? And so if they try to do y'all's noonday workout, which is like y'all's noonday workout is like you're experimenting with programming to kind of see what you should be doing. So like, how do you kind of judge that? It's been awesome, man. We started the in-person idea this year, so we're still recording a lot of virtual podcasts, but one per month is in person. So you're our in-person guest for this month. The month before was Nick Jones. He was a Marine Raider that got shot in the calf in this big famous battle, cave battle in Afghanistan, created a bunch of nerve damage. Heard his story. The month before that, it was Remy Warren. So for the new idea where every in-person, we do a full Bozeman, a full lab, a full MTNTOUGH experience on this new concept, year number 3. And so it's been incredible to brainstorm those ideas. It's been so much fun. Like Remy Warren, we knew that like the guy's phenomenal with a rifle. He's phenomenal with a bow. We thought about taking him to jiu-jitsu because we knew that would make him super uncomfortable. It didn't pan out, but we heard rumors that he was pretty terrible at a handgun. And our idea with every person is to make them do something a little bit uncomfortable and just walk through that process of adversity. So with Remy, we had a tactical Army guy teach him a bunch of handgun drills. It was epic. And then with Nick Jones, I called his wife, Hannah, and I was like, what does Nick suck at? Because he's a special operator. He just finished, even after getting shot in the calf with like 7 different surgeries trying to repair his nerve damage. After he did kind of sort that out, he just did a half Ironman. He's lifting every day. He's training every day. How do you hurt a guy like that? He's great at rolling. He's great at handguns, rifles. He's great at shooting a bow. And so I was like, Hannah, what does this guy really suck at? And she's like, he sucks at ball sports, like terrible at balls. And I'm like, what? I was like, I figured his hand-eye coordination would be superb. Well, it turns out like ball sports are not his thing at all. So we found a private racquetball court and we played a racquetball tournament, me against him. And it was probably like the most fun I've had in 20 years. Like just playing racquetball. It felt like it just being a kid again, just slamming that ball off the wall. Well, like that, I've seen so many guys that were like amazing athletes, like great football players, super explosive, super fast and all that. But you put a bat in their hand or a racket, and it's like, I mean, they look like they've never done sports ever before. So, I mean, ball sports and like normal, just being in shape, it's not the same thing. Not the same. Yeah, he was getting like big old whiffs where he'd like almost throw his back out because he just wanted to smash that ball so hard. But your story is awesome because the idea we had for you, it's going to probably happen this year, but we couldn't line up the timing of your trip out here because we were like, Kyle Thompson,
what are we going to do with Kyle Thompson? We're like, we got to think outside the box with this one. And because we're like, he's like Nick, where he's going to be pretty good at everything. You know, we're not going to freak him out with much. His physical fitness is really good, so there's not many things we're going to crush him with. And so our friend, Kim Green, owns Fallen Dogs. Fallen are Belgian Malinois that are some of the best protection dogs in the country. Well, there are opportunities where you can be the bite suit guy.
You know, I've actually been the bite suit guy before.
Oh, you have?
Okay, so
I was like, we're going to make him the bite suit guy.
Okay, so Mike Ritland, shout out to Mike Ritland.
Yeah.
So retired Navy SEAL. He was the dog training guy, right? So he was basically killing people with meat missiles, right?
Yep.
The meat missiles are these Malinois. And so I'm going to do his podcast like 5 years ago or something like that. And I say, hey, can I get attacked by one of your dogs? And his response is, you want to do that? And I was like, yeah, because so I get there and the suit is like 40 pounds, right?
Yeah.
And it's this big suit. And he set up this scenario where it's like, okay, we have the dog in the parking lot. You're going to be in this room and we're going to bring the dog to the room and you're going to be in the corner and you're going to immediately start acting aggressive. And then he goes, I can remember like it was yesterday. I've got the whole, I'll show you a video of it. But he goes, we train them to bite right here. So guys, just listen to this. It's like biting like the front of your armpit. So like the front of your deltoid, you know, the very edge of your pec, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, it's going to look like the dog's trying to bite you in the face, but he's probably not going to bite you in the face. And I'm like, that word, you know, you snuck a word in there. This probably is a little bit problematic. And so he's like, if that freaks you out, just give him your forearm. And I was like, no, I'm going to do it y'all's way. And so that's what we do. Like he brings the dog to it. And this isn't even one of his really good dogs. This is just an okay dog. And this dog lunges, grabs me on that's part of my deltoid, puts me in the wall behind me, right? This dog's 60 pounds or something,
insane.
right?
They are
puts me in the wall behind me. And then he's pulling the dog off and then he's giving me he's like, okay, now give him your forearm. Okay, now turn away and I'm going to have him bite your tricep and all that. This dog broke my skin through this suit. Like I had teeth marks all over my forearm. I was bleeding. The back of my tricep was just munched up for weeks and weeks and weeks. And so, but I was like, how many people have like had the opportunity to get attacked by a dog like that?
Yeah.
So like, I think that's a perfect idea for somebody because you're never going to be in a scenario where you can raise your hand and do that.
Yeah.
And you're just going to be forcing people to do that, which is even better.
It's got to be the right person because not everyone's going to have fun with that experience. Yeah. Those things the athleticism of those dogs is unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, when you see them when they're getting a full sprint run at somebody and then they take an arm, and Mike showed me some video and some pictures of some guys because, you know, he trains these dogs for, you know, sheriff's deputies and for different military things. And he's showing me these things of these dogs that have just like sliced someone's bicep completely open with one bite. And like, you know, guys get real tough when they're going up against other humans holding tasers or batons or something like that.
Dogs.
But the moment they see the dog, people freak out.
Yeah.
And as soon as they start getting bit, I mean, they lose it. Like very few people are going to fight through a dog to get to a human. Mm-hmm. And so like, that's why those things are so like, they're great tools. You know what I mean?
Incredible. And they're warriors. I mean, they're soldiers. It's awesome.
Yeah. And so y'all ended up taking me out to a shooting range, but it wasn't like kind of a normal long distance range. Like we were doing different setups where you were on a timer and you had to change your dope like in the middle of it. And, you know, you're using a rifle you're not used to. And, you know, we got to this final thing where y'all put rounds in a bucket and you put it like 30 yards down the hill. And so you had to get off 8 rounds in 5 minutes was the goal.
Yeah.
And so you had to run down, grab one round and kind of load it into the magazine on the way in to, you know, get to the rifle. And then you have to acquire the target. And man, like the heart rate is one thing, but then trying to acquire the target. And then I had kind of a weird thing going with the scope where like at one point for about 45 seconds to a minute, I couldn't see anything but black. And I'm trying to, you know, shift backwards, shift forwards, like up and down. And I could hear your lovely daughter, Ava, in the background. She's like, yeah, that happened to me yesterday. And I wanted to be like, that's not helping. Like, you know, tell me how to fix it. But it was such a cool experience because like what you've built with Mountain Tough and the community here and like everyone I met that's on your team, they're just aces, dudes and gals. Like, and they're all squared away. Like they're all squared away on their fitness. They're squared away on their professional life. You know, I don't know most of them personally, but I'm assuming it kind of bleeds over to that because you know how it goes. For people that are undisciplined with their diet and with their exercise regimen, it's not very common that they're disciplined everywhere else.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they're disciplined financially. They're disciplined in their relationships. They're disciplined in their marriage. And so you're kind of creating this this ecosystem here, which, you and I talked about a bit, to where it's
Yeah.
like, all right, we got to get you squared away in one of the hardest things to be squared away at, and then everything else will just seem easy.
Yeah, we're so fortunate. I mean, the team here is incredible. And a lot of that has just happened over the years of looking out around people that I know and thinking about who I want to hire and who I want to have around me, and just taking that really slow and strategically and making sure that, the people that we're looking for character first. And so it's always like, what is their character? What is their heart? And we know that regardless of their skill set, if they have the right character, they're going to be the right fit for the team. And so that's like almost every person you met, every person that's, walking around the gym and the lab that you've had the chance to interact with. It's all been, based off that philosophy since the beginning of really their skill set. They're going to find their sweet spot. Everyone's going to have different gifts and talents, and we're going to be able to, most of the time, build a position around that sweet spot.
Yeah.
But it's the character that's number one.
Hey guys, real quick. As you've heard me describe before, I am incredibly conservative about the supplements that I take. I spent years being terrified of putting different products in my body because I didn't know what they were made with, or if it was going to be kind of fly-by-night companies using all kinds of crazy ingredients. So I've always wanted to partner with an American company that only uses the highest quality ingredients, and that's why I want to remind you that we are partnered with Jocko Fuel. Jocko Fuel is Jocko Willing's supplement company that is based here in the United States. So what are some of my favorite products that they make? So they make whey protein powder, and guys, they just released a cookies and cream flavor not that long ago, and it is ridiculously good. Make sure you use it with milk. It makes it even better. They also make clean energy drinks. I finally decided what my favorite was, and that's pink lemonade. That is my favorite of all their flavors. But they also have the best tasting greens powder on the market. I prefer the peach flavor myself. They also make pre-workout and ready-to-drink protein. So I actually mix the ready-to-drink protein in my boys' milk, and they love it. They're constantly like, Dad, banana milk. So we got to hook that up in the Thompson household. But I also use their krill oil, fish oil, creatine, vitamin D, and their sleep aids. And guys, they've got new stuff coming out all the time, and a bunch of stuff I didn't even have time to mention. Guys, if you take your health and wellness seriously, then you simply can't afford to put cheap and inconsistent supplements inside of your body. Try Origin out today by going to www.jockofuel.com. That's jockofuel.com. Use the promo code UNDAUNTED to get 10% off your order. Again, that's jockofuel.com, promo code UNDAUNTED to get 10% off your order. Well, so I want to kind of give a peek behind the curtain to people in the audience. Do you remember how we got connected? I was sitting here trying to remember like how you and I first got connected.
The very first time that we got connected is because I heard your episode on Mike Glover's show.
Okay, that's right.
So that
y'all reached out.
That one that went viral that you were on with Glover caught my algorithm. I listened to it and I was like, holy smokes, I got to talk to this guy.
Dude, it was such a fun time. That's still his most downloaded or most viewed interview. And I mean, he's had Jocko. He's had so many like serious dudes. And so shout out to Glover. But so this is what I explained to you. And I don't get to talk about this very much. And so you understand it. I'm trying to create an ecosystem with the brands that I partner with and the people that I partner with, because I want to help create more types of guys. Okay, so we did this scenario where, okay, you wake up in the morning and you go to your home gym. Okay, well, are you going to buy a bunch of Chinese crap, or are you going to buy something serious that's bomb-proof? Okay, so Sorinex. So I have a relationship with Sorinex. Okay, you're done working out. Now you need to start getting your supplements in, get some protein and all that. Okay, it's got to be clean. Okay, Jocko Fuel. Now we're getting ready for the day. So we're throwing on our jeans, our boots. Okay, do Origin. It's all made here in America. And then you go to your work day. What are you eating for lunch? Are you eating, bull crap from the, fast food place, Taco Bell or whatever, or are you going to have some, good, clean beef? So we got Primal Beef. And then it's like, okay, where are you going after work? Okay, you're going to train jiu-jitsu. You need a gi. Okay, Origin again. There you've got your gi. But there's always been a gap where guys will reach out and they'll DM me. And you get these all the time, but I'll get them too, where it's like, okay, Kyle, like, I've started reading the Bible. I've started, dating my wife again. I've started doing all the stuff that I encourage on the show. But man, my fitness is just, I'm not where I used to be. And, I got asked to do this 5K and I knew I couldn't do it. I'm getting winded going to the top of some stairs. And people always wanted me to program for them. And they wanted to give them my workout routine. I'm like, dude, I that would crush you. Like, there's just no way. And
everyone's different.
Yeah, and everyone's super different. And I knew of some other apps out there and like that are pretty good that I would send people to. But the first time that I went to the Mountain Tough app, I was like, oh, this is completely different. And the biggest differentiator for me is you're meeting people where they're at. Because if you take, generic fitness app, you guys have some in mind, they're like, okay, they're telling you exactly what you need to go buy or what you need to do to kind of fit into their program. But y'all are like, okay, so you work out at a Globo gym, but you don't have a trainer. Okay, let us have the trainer. So you have full gym, options inside the app. Then you've also got, so you've got a home setup, so more of like a barbell setup. Okay, so you've got a thing like that. Okay, you're getting ready for a hunt, right? So we need to increase that VO2 max, that cardio. Okay, we got to track. Okay, now you're in off season. We need to build your strength. Okay, you got that. Hey, you've been a couch potato for 10 years, and we're just getting you started. We're getting you initiated. Boom, it's there. Rehab, prehab, you're coming off an injury, right?
Yeah.
Something like that, a really, really, really tough, backpacking, mountain hunting season. Okay, now you've got all that. And I'm just like, great. I can just send people to Mountain Tough and say, okay, go on there, use this code, use code Kyle, get 6 weeks to trial this because, 2 weeks doesn't really give you an idea of whether it's going to be that good or not.
6 weeks is good.
And so, I guess I want to go all the way back to the beginning because where y'all are at now is really unrivaled in terms of my experience in this whole field. But you were kind of telling me that's not where Mountain Tough started. I mean, so let's go back to the initial idea, how did Mountain Tough become a thing, and then we'll work our way to today. Yeah,
I love that because we definitely are an ecosystem now, kind of like you were talking about, and that was always the goal, and it took a little while to get there. We've always had glimpses of that, and we definitely are a pretty robust ecosystem at this point, but it all came from my life experience. And we were just barely getting to the conversation in the truck around the founding story.
Yeah.
And the founding story, it created where we're at now because of all the things that I learned in my life and the things that transpired in my life led to the product you see now. So Mountain Tough, just like everything you mentioned in terms of beginner, intermediate, elite, home gym, no gym, body weight, heavy pack, weight vest, there's mental toughness curriculum. Yep. There is spiritual curriculum. Be a better father. Be a better husband. There's straight up mindset courses from tier 1 special operators like overcome pain, overcome adversity. There's daily prayer. There's yoga. There's nutrition. And so everything that's required to start transforming a human mentally, spiritually, emotionally, nutritionally is in the app. So it's up to you to use as much content as serves your lifestyle right now. Kind of like the kindling we talked about yesterday. If you get into Mountain Tough, you're going to be surrounded by opportunities to improve your life every day. But that came from my experience. And so kind of the short version of that story was Montana kid. My dad came from a family of 9. 7 of the 9 were boys. So I had all of these uncles. They lived in the mountains outside of Sheridan, Wyoming, in the Bighorns. All we did was backpack, fly fish, backpack trips on horses, and then that started leading into deer hunting, elk hunting. Elk hunting became my huge passion. And so then we started archery elk hunting all over the Rocky Mountain West. So Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Idaho. As I got older, my training started to focus around real world training because you can't be good at everything. And we've seen this where a guy will be in phenomenal physical shape. He'll come to jiu-jitsu and get completely crushed because you have to pick your specialty and train to that specialty. And I wanted my special to be what works on the mountain and what doesn't work on the mountain, and then how can we make human beings always ready for anything. But really what was happening that created this ecosystem was the deeper stuff of life. And so as I was on this archery elk hunting journey, my wife and I were on this ultra marathon running journey, but the big catalyst for Mountain Tough was this conflict that I think many, many listeners are probably facing right now and have faced in their life is I think I found myself doing what the world and society and culture was telling me to do because I got a business degree because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to major in. And then all of your friends and family and society are telling you, just get a college degree because it was business. Then I landed in a corporate job, corporate America job. It was phenomenal on paper. So really high paying job in Bozeman at the time. But I was stuck 8 hours a day on conference calls,
Yeah.
In an office, in a cubicle. And so what I found myself in is I did what the world was telling me to do. I did what my family and friends were telling me to do. And it was those society pressures around materialism that led me to everything that I thought I desired, figuring out that it really wasn't what I desired at all. And you and I were able to chat yesterday about John Eldridge and Wild at Heart. And
Yeah.
at that moment in my life, I was really in the Wild at Heart crisis. And so a lot of MTNTOUGH's foundation is all based on the Wild at Heart principles. But at that moment of my life, like the Wild at Heart book was living out in my life story, because a man needs, a battle to fight, a beauty to rescue, and an adventure to live. And for me, with my wiring of spending my whole first 20 years of my life outdoors, physically active, you're getting a lot of vitamin D, you're getting a lot of adventure, you're getting a lot of adrenaline from, hunting trips, hiking in the mountains. And I walked away from all of that gifting and talents, following what the world was telling me to do. Now I'm stuck in an office, even though they're paying me a tremendous amount of money. I'm extremely unhappy,
Yeah.
which is a confusing moment. And I think a lot of people find themselves confused in that moment, because you're like, wow, like, why am I unhappy? I have everything that everyone aspires to have.
You got the degree, you got
Yep.
the job, you got all the stuff. You also got the mortgage, you also got the car payment and everything else. Yeah.
Yep. So what that led to is I was unhappy in that experience, and my wife was in a very similar journey, marketing degree, working at a great marketing agency. We decided to essentially quit our jobs and try to pursue what we felt God was calling us to do. We both found ourselves in Uganda. So we worked in Uganda together for a couple years at a campus that was saving kids from Joseph Kony's civil war with the Lord's Resistance Army using child soldiers. So all of a sudden, we had to do something where we were walking away from, now all our friends, family, close colleagues thought we were crazy. And so at first that we were doing everything they wanted us to do, we were unhappy. Now we're doing what we feel God is calling us to do. And they think we're crazy, but we're more happy than we've ever been before. Like, obviously it wasn't easy, but now you're living that adventure that you're supposed to live. And so we're over there running the campus, 240 kids. You're outside every day. You're doing hard physical farming labor. So we're building agricultural businesses so that the kids can learn how to make income, so that they're not stuck in the orphanage system for life. So we have like a tilapia pond. We have a chicken laying egg operation, dairy cow milk operation. So you're outside, you're doing farm work. The beauty to rescue thing, I'm there with my wife. It's 24/7 adventure. You never know what's going to happen. And so that experience was the light bulb moment for me of doing what the world wants you to do versus doing what God wants you to do with your gifts and talents and how he designed you. The funny thing about that story is when I went from that crazy high-paying corporate America job into that Africa experience, the 2 years I worked in Africa, on my household combined income statement to the IRS per year, we were making $18,000 a year.
Yeah.
So I was more happy and rewarded than ever before off $18,000 a year. And so all these pieces started creating MTNTOUGH, because I had the outdoor experience, I had the elk hunting experience, then we have the fitness experience, and especially the fitness experience of mission-specific training. And then I saw the difference between doing what the world wants you to do and what God wants you to do. So we thought we were going to do the Africa thing for a long time. We couldn't be happier. We built a little guest house to live in full time at the orphanage, and we didn't have any plan B because we assumed we'd be there for the next 10 years. My wife got pregnant with my first daughter while we were there. And we were talking last night that I was so naive. We were so young and naive at that point that I was like, no problem. We'll fly home to Bozeman. We didn't have a house or anything anymore because we'd sold everything for this Africa journey. We'll stay with friends and family for 6 weeks. And then once the baby's about 6 weeks old, we'll fly back over here to Uganda and go back to work. And when my daughter came out as a real human, instead of just this idea in my imagination,
Pretty different.
Everything changed.
Yeah.
And so as like a protector and provider, just with the security threats in Uganda, the health threats, the sicknesses, the illnesses, the travel, there's like no way I'm taking this like beautiful baby daughter over there right now. And it was a backwards burn the ships moment because we didn't have any other jobs lined up. We didn't have any other housing lined up. But I'd been brewing of this Mountain Tough idea for years because I saw what can start happening to people when you train them mentally, physically, spiritually, and nutritionally. And so being stuck at home with nowhere to live, no job, with this newborn baby, it was like, hey, walk right back into corporate America because then you can provide for this child and your wife. Or it was like, hey, you just kind of trained yourself to live off $18,000 a year for the last 2 years. You know that it's possible. Now's the time to start something from nothing. And so especially I did not want to go back to what the world was telling me to do. I knew it was time to start something from nothing. And so we launched Mountain Tough about as bootstrapped as you could get. I had a buddy design the logo. So the original Mountain Tough logo that you see here today, and I hung it at our local bow shop, and it was like you tear off the bottom of the poster.
Yeah.
It's usually firewood or puppies.
Yeah.
So it's like Mountain Tough, looking to train backcountry hunters, and you just tore off my phone number off the bottom on those little slits. And 3 guys called me, and I started training them behind my house in the park because I had no equipment, no gym. So we're doing lunges on the soccer field, and we're doing pull-ups on the monkey bars. And then fast forward now, 9 years, this is 9 years from those park days. And we're a global app with like the most amazing community in the world. And all of that can be connected to 2 things. It's connected to doing what God wants you to do, not what man wants you to do. And then the second thing is our success is definitely rooted in training people mentally, physically, spiritually, and nutritionally. And I always define it as like if you have a bar stool, your classic bar stool is going to have 4 legs, and then it's got the seat on top. All 4 of those legs have to be equally strong for that bar stool to hold the weight of a 250-pound man. You can't have 1 leg strong and 3 legs weak, or 2 legs strong and 2 legs weak. And that's how I think that it works, is our legs are that mental leg, that physical leg, that spiritual leg, and that nutritional leg. And many people have seen this where if you're extremely strong spiritually, but you're really weak mentally,
Oh, yeah.
physically, and nutritionally, and you put a 250-pound man on that bar stool and only 1 leg is strong, it's that spiritual leg, that bar stool's coming down. And so that's the guy that is just buried into scripture. He's buried into church, but he's not taking care of his body as a temple. And so he's completely out of shape, even though he's very spiritually somewhat strong. The same thing happens on all ends of that spectrum, where you have the guy that's spending way too much time in the gym.
That's right.
Physically, he's an absolute savage, but he's super weak mentally. He's super weak nutritionally. And then he's super weak spiritually. So Mountain Tough success is because of that 4-legged bar stool analogy. We believe that humans need to improve every day across those 4 categories, and you can't just focus on one. And so that's what started creating the ecosystem. Is when you get in the Mountain Tough app, you're certainly going to see a program for everyone, regardless of fitness level. The programs are building that always ready human. And so it's not going to be a bodybuilding program. It's not going to be a weight loss program. We want someone who can protect their wife if an intruder comes into the house tonight. We want someone who knows how to handle a 14-car pileup on the interstate on the way home from work tonight. Like, do you have the strength to get your family out of the car? And do you have the mental toughness to stay calm in that situation? And so we're always looking like, how can we build an always ready human, training them across those 4 pillars? And so that's where like the ecosystem you see now, it all came from that.
Well, I appreciate you getting into all that detail, because for me, the other thing that kind of attracted me to what you guys are doing, and me just kind of wanting to be, I kept raising my hand like, hey, Dustin, I want to be a part of this. Like, let me see what we can do. Is what y'all are doing specifically, because you're a Christian, the people here are Christians. This is an outwardly Christian company, and you don't see that connected with fitness apps or with nutrition programs or stuff like that. You don't really see that kind of stuff, certainly not in the package that it's in. But even as you were describing that guy that's really spiritually adept, right? So he reads the scripture, he knows some theological words, and he can kind of, spin some Spurgeon quotes or different things like that. But that scenario of car accident, 14-car pileup, and he's not physically capable, perhaps even of getting himself out of a vehicle that's upside down, because he just doesn't move his body ever. But wife and kids, there's no chance, right? And so the dad, who's supposed to be always ready to provide for and protect his family, is completely incapable. But we live in this society right now where everybody assumes that the problem can be taken care of by somebody else, right? So I don't need to take care of my body, and I don't need to be fit because I'll just take Ozempic. Or, hey, I don't really need to, square myself away here because I'll just take whatever the next pill is that's going to help me. But the other thing is, like, about the being ready part, is everyone always defaults to, hey, if something goes wrong, I'll just call the police. I was like, okay, so let's extrapolate that out just a little bit. Okay, so you're outsourcing your violence to the government. Okay? Now, if you live in Edmond, Oklahoma, or Bozeman, Montana, the government is probably for you. And so you call the police, you call the fire department, they're going to be on their way. But what do you think about the Christians in Syria right now? Or people like what you experience in Uganda?
Yep.
So you're going to outsource your violence to the government, because that's essentially what you're doing. An intruder comes into your home. You are not capable of violence. You don't want to do violence for whatever reason. And so you call the police, so they'll do it for you, right? So a government agent, and the average response time is like 7 minutes for 911 here in the United States of America. And if you live in a bigger city, it's even longer if they even answer, right? You hear about people that just stay on hold with 911 while they have a family member like bleeding out, or while someone's in the house with a knife or a gun. And you just ask these people, like, so is that the optimal plan? So when a threat is seconds away, but help is minutes away, you think 2 thumbs up, this is a good plan. But most people, Dustin, like, their entire life is eyes closed, ears closed. This is never going to happen to me. Like, that's why I tell people to train jiu-jitsu all the time. That's why I tell people conceal carry and also shoot, right? You can't just conceal carry and not shoot. But it's like, what's the plan? Someone has put hands on you or hands on your spouse, and people just assume, oh, well, I'm just going to see red and bodies are going to start to drop. And it's like, yeah, you'll see red and then you'll see nothing, because your body is going to be the one that drops. Because if that person gets the jump on you, and you're not prepared to even the score or, bend it in your favor. Like, I just don't really understand. And you and I are very, very similar in terms of our mindsets. But like we talked about on my interview that I did on your show that's coming around around the same time as this, you can't make somebody want it. You can give them the opportunities. You can say, here is something. If you want to be ready, here's something that I provided for you. Here's this fitness app. Here's this, program. Here's this podcast. Here's this whatever. But the most frustrating thing, I think, for guys like you and me and the people that work here is the person that you just can't convince that they've never been able to hear an argument good enough for why they shouldn't be a slob.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge topic, and it is mind blowing at times when you see that someone isn't starting to take steps forward, mentally, physically, spiritually, nutritionally, even though they know that they need to, and they have plenty of information that they need to. So there's not any more articles that they need to read.
Yeah, there's no studies you can show them.
Yeah. But I think that we did get close to the root of it yesterday. I think there is a game changer if you can start getting people to settle in that identity world. And the identity doesn't fix everything for getting someone disciplined in their life journey of making improvements, but it is close to probably the biggest needle mover that I've ever seen. And I think if people can really settle in to that identity work, they can start to see some life changes. I think especially as a Christian, when you start understanding that life is so short, we're here just for like that tiny little glimmer of time. Like the Bible talks about it as man is like dew on the grass in the morning and gone in the afternoon. That is like our lifetime in the big picture of the kingdom. And so dew on the grass this morning, gone in the afternoon is going to be the 50, 60, 70 years we have the opportunity to be here on this earth. And so it is so short and so precious. And there are works that God set out before us that he plans for us to do, good works set out before us. And so we're here for a really short amount of time, and there's really important things that we're put on this earth to do, and such as time as this. And so starting to like connect that to your identity, if you're out of shape and you're just watching Netflix all day and you're sitting in a job that you hate, then you're wasting this precious time that you have here on this planet, and it has generational impacts. And so the generational impacts that your kids are going to face and your kids' kids are going to face because you didn't take advantage of the limited amount of time that you have here. People starting to settle into that identity, I think we can start seeing some changes, even though we can't make people do what we want them to do, if we can at least start shifting that identity. Because in the more like specific examples of that, I've seen that work where if someone's having a difficult time hitting their fitness journey, the things that I have seen work are, well, you love backcountry hunting. I know that you love it. Do you want to be able to go on these elk hunts with your boy when he's 14? Yes, I do. Well, you're not going to be able to do that on the fitness track you're currently tracking. You're like, you won't even be close. Well, let's work on that identity. Start identifying yourself as a mountain hunter, and that mountain hunting identity means that you're going to pass down this mountain hunting lifestyle to your kids and hopefully your grandkids. Hopefully you can take your grandkid hunting when he's 12 and it's his first year. Like, do you want to be on that trip? Do you want to be able to hike in those mountains? Most people do. They want that identity. And if they can start filtering their life decisions through that identity, we can start seeing some changes.
And so let's pull on that thread a little bit more. So the identity, always ready. That's y'all's thing. Or stay dangerous. With us, it's push back darkness, those types of things. This is always what I put to guys. And it's about as effective as you would think. Because again, guys can't be moved. They have to move themselves, right? But I will say, like, let's say, and it's great because, you actually did this type of work in Africa. Let's say God's calling on your life, at least for right now, the new direction he's giving you is towards helping, helping a group, an orphanage or whatever in Africa. Okay. And so where you station every morning, you get in your Hiluxes or whatever, and you take all your materials and you drive down the road a couple of miles and you get to the village, and then you start digging the water well or building the orphanage or blah, blah, doing all that kind of stuff. Okay. So God's called you to do this, right? So you're over there. Not only are you on the front lines of ministry now, so the spiritual attacks that you're going to be under are going to be substantial. But let's say the Hiluxes don't work. Let's say they're broken down. Mm-hmm. Do you just not work today? Do you just not protect the kids today? Or do you start putting some materials on your back and start walking your way to the job site, right? And I use that as an example because if you're just a tub of a human being that couldn't walk 2 miles without any weight on your back, it's like you have not done your part to do what God is calling you to do, right? So your part is you have to be in our parlance, is spiritually, mentally, and physically resilient, right? Because you can't do the work that God has for you if you are only crushing it in one of those areas. So, right, you got the gym bro guy, right? So he can deadlift the whole planet. And gosh, he's throwing extra weight on his back to walk those 2 miles, but he's a mental midget, right? He hasn't read a book since high school. Like he doesn't know where Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are located if you gave him the Bible and the whole afternoon to find it, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, again, it's that stool. I love the stool thing. So for us, I guess it's a 3-legged stool, which is even worse because if one of those legs is bad, you're toppling over and everybody gets to laugh.
Going down.
Yeah, but like, again, for guys listening to this, like if you're waiting for that sign that you need to fix it, whatever it is, like this is it. Like this is that sign, because you can't be prepared when the moment has arrived to you if you haven't prepared for that moment, right?
Yeah.
Because you will fall to the level of your training, you will fall to the level of your preparedness, you will fall to the level of what you're able to do. And then the super spiritual people will be like, well, we just got to let go and let God. It's like, you don't get that from the Bible. You just don't. And you want to know why? Because the people in the Bible that were relying on God, God still needed them to do their part. Again, I'm not saying God is limited, like he can't, move the chess pieces however he wants. He's obviously omniscient, omnipresent, and he has sovereignty over all these things. But he's working through you. Mm-hmm. You are the conduit through which the triune God can get his will done. And that's asking your server if you can pray for them, which might lead to a gospel conversation. That's taking care of the one temple that God gave you to steward well. That's providing a household and income and protection for your children. It's loving your wife as Christ loved the church. It's raising up your children in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. It's all that stuff. But again, guys just kind of get lost in the minutia of what it would seem like and what it would be like if they were to do it. Mm-hmm. They do all this research about getting in shape. They do all this research about what it would be like if they were spiritually adept, but they don't spend any time pounding the pavement, and they certainly don't spend any time reading the Bible. And so it's just like, guys, like, this is your big blinking neon sign. Like, it's time to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, you said something yesterday that definitely caught my attention around, like, just having a bias for action. And I've seen that come into effect so many times. For a long time, I saw a lot of guys that had read every single Field and Stream article on backcountry hunts. They'd watched every single YouTube on backcountry hunts, but they'd never been out in the backcountry. It was like they needed to watch one more video before they went. They needed to read one more article.
Getting ready to get ready.
And they would even come up to you. They'd be like, hey, have you seen that latest YouTube on so-and-so elk hunt? And I was like, no, I haven't watched a hunting film really in like 20 years. And they've seen every single one, read every single article, but they won't take that step and go. And so from the hunting analogy, I'm always like, just pack your bag and go on a trip. Like the things that I know about hunting, like everything in life, it took at least 10 years to be like proficient at this stuff. So it took 10 years of learn, fail, learn, fail, learn, fail, learn, fail before you can even call yourself somewhat decent. It's the 10-year principle that's going to apply to if you try guitar, if you try jujitsu, anything that you try, think about that 10-year rule. And so that is the same thing with fitness, mental toughness, and your spiritual walk is like, yeah, quit thinking about getting ready and just start taking some action. Do any sort of fitness. Like I think we talk a lot about sitting people down, and I think the biggest hack once they start, we just talked about, like, you got to think about your identity. Hopefully that makes you want to start. I think the biggest hack to fitness and starting and the connection to mental toughness is just do some sort of training every single day.
Yeah, take some ground.
Yeah, and so I always would love people to pick Mountain Tough as their option, but if they don't pick Mountain Tough as their option, just do something every day. Like if you're swimming every day, if you're riding a spinning bike every day, if you're doing some sort of training every single day, you're so far ahead of the general population. And then the physical fitness is what starts building that mental toughness. And so I do believe mental toughness trumps physical fitness. And so mental toughness at the hardest moments of your life is going to trump your physical fitness, like on a mountain or like in a financial crisis. Mental toughness will trump your physical toughness. But the nice thing about physical training is you're building some mental resilience every single day. And that's what's going to really help you in those big adversity situations that are coming. They're coming for all of us. Like we're all going to get hit with some major adversity. and how you react in that adversity and how you get back up is the real game changer. And how is anyone going to react well if they've done no adversity training at all? So one of the huge benefits of physical is obviously like you're getting in shape, you're feeling good, you're getting in great shape for whatever your sport or your activity is. But every time you make yourself work out and do a challenging workout, you're just kind of adding some cubes on that mental toughness.
What I tell guys is I try to use words that are kind of sticky or phrases that are sticky. It's like, I've seen me do that before. So what does that mean? So you wake up, it's cold outside, but it's warm in your bed, you hit snooze. Well, you've seen you do that before. And so the next day and the next day or a month from now, you've seen you do that before. So how easy is it to just repeat that behavior? Yeah, boop. And then you just go back to sleep and you don't end up working out that day. But if your alarm goes off and you peel yourself out of your bed and you put on your shoes and you go to your home gym or you drive to the normal gym or do whatever it is that you do, you've seen you do that before too. Mm-hmm. And the same thing is true because I lift alone, right? I lift in my garage gym. I run sprints alone. Like everything I do is basically alone. Like working out with you and your team, like I never get to do something like that. So it was a ton of fun for me. But like I run these sprints and I have a pretty hard sprint workout that I do. But the last sprint I do, because I run like 10 hundreds as my workout with only 30 seconds rest in between, I do a final sprint. But it's more like 300 yards probably because I like go down and around a cul-de-sac and then I run past my normal ending spot and all that type of stuff. I could very easily just run another 100, right? But I would have seen me do that before where, hey, but you ran 10 100s. That's crazy, Kyle. Yeah, but man, I skipped out on the very end because I'm normally doing the sprint workout after squatting or deadlifting or working out for an hour, hour and a half, and then I do the sprint workout. But every time I finish, I've seen me do that, right? And so I can, if I ever am feeling like, in my feels that day and I'm not really feeling that great, I'm a little bit under recovered or something like that, I've seen me overcome that feeling over and over and over again. And so that's just me doing it, by myself because I'm a lunatic, but that is something that you and your company do. But we got to get out of here. We got to get to the airport. But as I end every show, even though I'm in your captain's chair because I'm the captain now, is there anything else you want to get off your chest?
I think you're spot on with that. I think all the guys we admire, all the guys we aspire to be like, the guys that we really respect, I would assume 99% of the time they're one more rep guys. Yeah. And so that's what you're doing with those sprints. And that is who we all want to be. And it is a really big game changer. And so like the same sprint analogy that you just used, how you're doing your sprints, like you could finish that last one, or just like on your bench press, if your program or your coach is calling for 10 reps, the one more rep guys will do 11. Yeah. And if they're asking for 8 deadlifts, they'll do 9. And they're just building that mentality. Like I can always do one more, because the guys that are going one less, then it becomes one less in everything they do. Right. So if you cut that last sprint and you only run 9 instead of 10 because no one's watching, then you're going to do that in your professional life. You're going to do that in your family life. And so these guys that we all look up to, 99% of the time they're one more rep guys. And what that starts to do is it does start to turn ceilings into floors. And so the ceilings to floors story is so spot on for my life. What happens is if you're listening right now and you're like, a half marathon for sure is my ceiling. There's no way with where I'm at right now in life I could run a half marathon. If we train you, to start running around your block, that's 1 mile. Now we're going to train you from your block to 5 miles. Now we're going to get you ready for your half marathon, which used to be your ceiling. You train and you run that half marathon. That ceiling that used to almost look impossible now is your floor. Yep. Now all of a sudden you're like, dude, I just ran a half marathon. I wonder what a full marathon feels like. That's right. Now you're just ceilings to floors, ceilings to floors, ceilings to floor. And that's how this journey works. And it all starts with that bias for action. Absolutely, man. Well, thanks for having me out. Utah is a beautiful state, even though I've been in Montana this entire time, but can't wait to do it again. Thanks, brother. There you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed my time with Dustin Diefenderfer. But before we let you go, we are going to do a quick resilience boost. At Undaunted.Life, our mission is equipping men to push back darkness with content that forges spiritual, mental, and physical resilience. So again,
the Mountain Tough app. Guys, try it out for 6 weeks. Go to MTNTOUGH. That's Mountain Tough, MTNTOUGH.com. Use the promo code Kyle, right? All that's there in the show notes if you can't remember that. Use the promo code Kyle when you sign up for your monthly plan. It takes your 14-day free trial and it adds another month on top of that. So you get 6 weeks to try out literally the best fitness app that I've ever seen in my entire life. Guys, you know I'm not just pulling your leg. Whenever I find stuff that's awesome, I share it with you, okay? I don't try to keep it a secret, and this is fantastic, so go there, check it out. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Wherever you're listening to this, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a positive 5-star review. If you want me to come speak live at your event or on your podcast, just shoot me an email to info@Undaunted.Life. That's info@Undaunted.Life. Follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook, and check out our website for everything else, including how to donate to keep more content like this coming your way. Just go to www.Undaunted.Life. And as always, we want to thank the band Holy Name for allowing us to use their music for our content. The music on this podcast is their song Perpetua, which is off their self-titled debut album on Face Down Records. The links are in the description. I'm your host, Kyle Thompson. Remember, keep pushing back darkness, keep forging spiritual, mental, and physical resilience, keep seeking the Lion of Judah.